the voiceover world and feel either uncomfortable or that, you know, it's like, well, this isn't acting, this isn't what we do, this is some other weird thing. He knew the job was the job. It's like, I act on camera, I act on stage, I act on microphone, it's all the same. And he taught me a lot about acting. It was a really great experience. Yes, sir?
Yes, if it's not too much trouble, sir, I was wondering, could you please do your one Batman line, but I want to sing it with you, and I'll pick up from where your partner left off. He goes, it's cold, it's still, it's hard as a rock, and after we're done, we're gonna go out for a cocktail for two.
I think you just did it.
But I'll say his parts, and you say your own parts, and you end it with...
This is really, really complicated. And I have the microphone, you don't have the microphone.
Just follow me, but all you say is...
Hold. Pause. We're going to do some questions before we get into musical numbers. What's your name?
Jermaine.
Jermaine? Thank you. Jermaine is referencing a Mad TV sketch we did in third season, where we did our version of Batman 5. Because this was just at the end of the Joel Schumacher Batman, so it was like, we had Dave Herman playing Joel Schumacher, and he was talking about, my Batman lives on the stage. He's a creature of primal savagery. And it was just this big, like, all glitter Batman musical, which I guarantee you somebody is working on right now. A Batman musical for Broadway. Hopefully it'll be a lot better than the one we envisioned. Wait, somebody over here had a question. Yes.
How was it like working with Tarantino?
Yeah, I worked with Tarantino on Pulp Fiction. It was his second movie that he had directed. We did it, actually it'll be 20 years next year.
Wow.
In 1994. It was actually great. I mean, as a person, Quentin is a motorbound. You can't get a word in edgewise. I remember we were out one time to dinner, and a fan walked up to the table and said, "Oh, Mr. Tarantino, I'm a really big fan of your work." And I'm sure this guy had like come up from his table where he was eating and saw Tarantino and went over to talk to him. Quentin had kept him there for like 15, 20 minutes talking about something. Oh, really? You like, you know? I was like, my steak is getting cold. I didn't know I was getting into all this. But as a director, he was totally focused on us as the actors and just trying to give us he didn't take the focus on himself, even though he's certainly capable of doing it. He was just about being there for you, like, what do you need? You know, I remember we were driving to shoot the scene where I'm sitting in the back of the car. Because there were two different shots. There's the shot from the back, looking at Sam Jackson and John Travolta, and then there was another shot of me, where Sam and John weren't there. It was because it was an actual car, and there was only room for the cameraman and Quentin. And so the whole time we were driving to where we needed to go for the right background, he was just talking to me in character, just like, helping me stay in the moment. And yeah, it was a great experience. Yes, in the back.
Oh yes.
Wait, no.
You have voiced so many amazing characters over the years that have been made into action figure form. Do you own any action figures of characters you have voiced, like Jon Stewart or Hermes or any of those characters?
Yes, I have one Hermes, a couple of Jon Stewarts, just the small ones.
Oh yeah.
And I have a maquette of Jon Stewart and Samurai Jack.
Nice.
I don't really have a place for them, so I don't have a lot of them.
Oh.
But yeah, I have a couple. There's nothing cooler than that. Than I mean, as a voice of a character, I consider they're not my characters. I'm part of the character.
Right.
It's the voice, it's the art, and it's also the writing. I mean, the three of us work in conjunction to make the characters come to life. But, yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome.
Oh wait, no, I don't have any Kid Fisto.
Oh.
There are any.
Jazz.
There are? There are action figures? All right, I got it for one. Yes, sir.
What is one of your favorite voices?
First one, no. Actually, I'm joking, but that is true. There is a voice of a friend of mine from college that I do constantly trying to get it into things, and it never works.
This guy. Okay.
But actually, I wonder if that's ever shown up as a minor character. I think maybe it has a couple of times, but never as a major character. So that's my favorite. Yes, you do. Jazz on Transformers Animated. Actually, that was a challenge because it was playing Jazz. It was playing a character that had been created by Scatman Crothers, who's just such a great voice actor and just such an indelible sound. So and they say, well, we don't want it to sound like old Jazz. Like, well, how do you get that voice out of your head? There's nothing like Scatman. It just gets stuck in your head. All right, Optimus, let's move out. And the idea of like, okay, well, let's find something that's not that. But it's weird, when you get a voice stuck in your head, it's hard to think of anything else. Yeah, eventually I found something that sort of captured the coolness and the jazz quality that Scatman had, but without going all the way there. Yeah, I was happy with the way it turned out. Yes, Ben. Favorite movies of all? Well, one of my favorite movies is Richard Rush's The Stuntman. It's not a really well-known movie. It stars Steve Railsback and Barbara Hershey. It's about a convict who escapes from prison and stumbles onto a movie set right as a stuntman has been killed. And the director, played by Peter O'Toole, actually, who's just he plays this egomaniac, doesn't want his movie shut down. So there's this sort of unspoken agreement. It's like, we won't turn you in if you pretend to be this guy who's dead, so that we can keep shooting. So it's a great movie, and it's got Alex Rocco in it as a sheriff. But yeah, if you ever get a chance, look that up. Yes, Thomas. Katie Seagal is amazing. She did the voice of Leela on Futurama, as well as many other incredible. Yeah, she was Peggy Bundy on Very Good Children. She's Gemma on Sons of Anarchy. And in between that, she managed to star on another sitcom with John Ritter for like 6 years. Yeah, Atypical Rules. And she's one of the most easygoing but incredibly talented people. It's funny because people always say about Billy West, he's like an amazing voice actor, and he's an even better guitarist. and Katie is the same way. Katie's, an amazing actress, but an even better singer. And she's just really, this ain't church, man. I'm on the microphone. And she's really easygoing. I think at times she felt a little, left behind, because pretty much all the rest of us were doing multiple characters. But Katie has such a distinctive voice that she almost always just does Leela. And also, this is, I don't know how many people know about this. Katie Seagal, I consider her a statistical anomaly. Because she went to a school called Cal Arts in Southern California, an art school. And when she was there, I mean, it's a really small acting program. There's like 10 people per year or something. It's a 2 or 3 year program. So like, let's say there are 30 people. And within this group of 30 people one year was Katie Seagal, Paul Rubens,
nice.
who became Pee Wee Herman, and David Hasselhoff. Like, statistically, if you put 30 people in one place, what is the likelihood that, what, is that 10% of them will become insanely world famous? Like, I mean, all 3 of them are at an immense level of fame. Like, it just wakes me up. Start with the good one. Okay.
Any interesting anecdotes from working on Hermes on Pulp Fiction? Any interesting anecdotes from Hermes Birdman? And what is your favorite
I actually don't have any anecdotes from Harvey Birdman because I literally only had like one line. In my pants. And yeah, for some reason, when I mean, I think a lot of that was done in New York or something, but like when I was there was like nobody else there. Pulp Fiction. Anecdotes. Well, it's funny because at the time RuPaul had just had his single out, had just hit, and for some reason that came up the first day in the makeup trailer, and like every morning after that, when I'd come in the morning, John Travolta was like, "Go ahead, do the RuPaul," because I did like a RuPaul. Here you go, listen to this. Do the supermodel song you did. And favorite character? You know what? Somebody asked me this earlier. It's really tough. I think if I were able to do all of those characters like in 1 week, maybe I could sort of compare them. But they all came along at different times and like really offered very different things. I mean, Hermes, you know, is generally a minor character in any given episode of Futurama, but I got to do it for like 12, 14 years, you know, off and on. And, you know, Jon Stewart, I got to be on trial for murder, being on love triangle. I mean, you know, and be a Green Lantern. But, you know, Kid Fisto, I was a Jedi. I mean, it's so hard to, like, they all offered, you know, really amazing rewards in really different ways. Yes.
Super question. What do you start at?
Just don't make me dance.
I'm going to do a beatbox. No, I won't. But, do you start as a voiceover or the other actor?
The other kind of. Well, when I started out, voice acting was not, strictly speaking, a job. There were people who did cartoon voices, but they usually also did commercials or, you know. It was a job, not a category. Like, you know, I think most people who do commercials don't consider themselves commercial actors. Like, I'm sorry, I only do commercials. I can't do your feature film. You know, you get a job. The job doesn't define you. My very first job was, in fact, actually doing a voice for a cartoon, on the Mr. T cartoon when I was still in high school. Dude, no, really. No. It was a really crappy show. I mean, you can see it through your, you know, your 12-year-old eyes. Mr. T is the coolest thing in the universe. But it was a bad Scooby-Doo ripoff. It was. I mean, Mr. T was the coach of a gymnastics team that traveled around solving mysteries. And there was a bulldog with a mohawk. Somebody was trying to make some money. There was nobody who had a vision of that as a child. Like, when I grow up, I want to make the Mr. T cartoon. But it sold some cereal. Yes.
Did like the directors of Samurai Jack ever tell you how the show was intended to end?
No, you know what's funny? I just saw the Genndy Tartakovsky, the creator, actually last week. Still don't know. I do know that he really wants to end the story with of an animated 2D feature. Just a matter of making it happen. Yes.
How does playing a superhero in a sketch compare with voice acting a superhero on a cartoon? Does it feel better or worse?
Doing it on the cartoon feels a lot better because you don't have to wear any spend. You know, it's funny because it's one of those things that people talk about, like when a comic book movie gets made into a live action. A comic book gets made into a live action movie. It's like, well, what do they look like? Well, they kind of wear the suit. And it's like, I mean, as any of the cosplayers here will tell you, it's like, if you have superpowers, your first choice in life is not going to be to put on like skin tight clothing. I can tell you from experience, having worn, it's like, I don't know. I mean, if I could move mountains with my mind or with my arms, I want to be comfortable. Wear like a loose cargo pant. You know? Pockets. So, yeah,
Pockets. Need pockets.
You look great. You look great. But nobody wants to be there when you take that off. Spandex is no fun. But it gets people looking. Yes, you have to.
Yeah, I was actually wondering, and because I'm a big fan of Futurama, I have to ask this, what were your reactions and your, like, going on your head when you heard that it was coming back the first time and then even the second time? Like, what were your reactions? Were you happy? Were you sad? Were you grateful? And did you know it was going to last as long as it did, I guess?
Well, it was weird because we had sort of done coming back for the movies was for me the biggest emotional point, because like at that point the show had been canceled by a network,
Right.
and in my experience in show business, that was death. Like if a show got canceled, it was done. I mean, I think at that point we were just into the time where things were running and rerunning on cable, but that was relatively new, and at that point nothing had ever come back from cable purgatory into production before. So the fact that we were doing the movies was like, what, really? That's amazing. And by the time the show got picked up by Comedy Central, that was also kind of cool, just because it was like, oh, we're actually doing episodes, and we're back to being a series. But for me, that was coming back for the 4 movies was the hand coming up through the grave. We're alive. It's funny because after we got canceled the first time, people were tearing their when we got canceled this time. I'm not saying y'all don't care, but I think you guys were a little jaded. Like, Family Guy came back from the dead, Futurama comes back. Nobody believes that cancellation is death anymore. Like, oh, I heard you guys got canceled again. Bummer. You'll probably come back. I'm imagining people coming to funerals like, so your mom died, huh? Yeah. She'll probably be back. Give it 20 years. Once we get that, that head technology, heads in jars. Now you've already asked the question, but you've been keeping your arm up, so this better be good.
What's your favorite voice actor?
Who's my favorite voice actor? God. That was an impossible one to answer, especially with all these rolling camera on me. Yeah, I work with some of the most talented performers in the world. I mean, I can't even pick between Frank Welker and D. Bradley Baker. There's 2 guys that I've been in the room with them, watched them do things that just literally made my jaw drop. It's like, I mean, you can't even, if you have the next line, you can't go because you're just like, I can't believe he just did that. But yeah, I mean, amazing talents like Ray Delisle and Taylor. I mean, there's just too many. It's impossible to answer. now someone's going to ask me about the quadratic equation.
Pulp Fiction, what was in the briefcase?
You know what's funny? I asked that. I asked Quentin at the time. He said, "It's whatever you want it to be." Then you're like, I mean, literally? Like, whoever looks in it is whatever they want it to be? Or it's whatever I want it to be? I think it's an existential answer. Other than, 40-watt bulbs. Yes. Yes. Right now, we're waiting to get finished animation on a couple of shows. One is for Fox, called Murder Police, and it's an animated cop show. It's me and Will Sasso and Jane Lynch and Shy McBride, and Justina Machado, and it's co-created and starring a guy named Jason Ruiz. And it's also co-created by one of the producers from Family Guy named David Goodman. And it's really funny. It's not for your young children. I wonder if they'll put it on at 8, but yeah, it's incredibly funny. And Sasso is particularly insanely hilarious.
You're going to have to speak up.
Will I be on any new shows playing white characters, or shows with white characters on them? 'Cause I tend to do shows that have white characters on them. Although I did do an episode of Black Dynamite. But that had white characters. There was a show where they were having a race war. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it was a race. And I played Muhammad Ali. Yeah. We're also doing a show called Turbo for Netflix. That's based on the Snail racing. So there's a lot of racing. All right, it's your second question, Jay.
Yeah, and it'll be the last one, but I had to ask this because with Justice League...
Is that someone has a gun to your head? I have to ask this. No, seriously.
With Justice League, how was it finding out and then working with Mark Hamill on that Justice League episode where the Joker was? Did you get to meet him when you did that?
That's an interesting question. Well, Mark Hamill and I have the same voiceover agent. So I had met Mark before that. And another incredibly talented person. I mean, like, I think I was watching regular show for like a season before I realized that he was the voice of Skips on that. You know? Did anybody watch regular show? Mark Hamill was on it's meeting him for the first time, which I don't know if it was there or on a different show, but it was really just amazing. You know, because it's so rare that you meet somebody who has played such an iconic character, especially, you know, I mean, I was, 10 when Star Wars came out? So that was like right in my wheelhouse. And to actually meet Luke Skywalker was incredible. And he's so sweet. Just such an incredibly sweet guy. Yes?
Is there a character that maybe had an opportunity to work on, but then something came up that you missed it, and kind of looking back on it and said, damn, I missed that?
You mean something I recorded, or something I tried out for?
Yeah, something you did an audition for, you had an opportunity, something happened, you missed out on it, and you look back and wish you could have worked on it.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, it's interesting. I think it's sort of the nature of voiceover in that you don't have to memorize the characters. So they don't really like sit with you, especially if you don't get the job. Really, the only one I can remember auditioning for was Aqualad in Young Justice. Because I was like, I did a really good job on that. You know, and I'd worked with Greg Weisman before on Spectacular Spider-Man. But then they were sweet enough to hire me to play Aquaman. And it's funny because I went in and I was recording with Kari Payton, who got the part of Aqualad. And at one point they, you know, to remind him of the voice he did, they played his audition. And this is something that I've found in voiceover in general. It's about the most merit-based corner of show business I've ever been in. Like, generally speaking, if you don't get a part, it's because it went to somebody who was better than you. And I listened to Kari's, you know, audition, like his first take on Aqualad, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's so much better than what I did. And I thought what I did was really good. And then I heard them like, no, that's it. That's the part. You know? And the thing is, it's a relatively small group of people who do the work, and you usually know pretty much everybody. And you're always happy when somebody gets a job, even if it's one you tried out for. You know, it's like, because they're usually better than you. Yes?
Yes, I was wondering, did you do your one line from the Proud Family where you played the coach in school?
I'm sorry, I listened to the sighs behind you.
You say it in angry way. I said his coach is public. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Hi, Daddy.
Wait, you know what? That was my character too, so I'll do both lines.
Hi, Daddy.
I said it's coach in public. Yes, I really enjoyed doing that show. That show should have gone on much longer.
What were the cast members like?
Everybody was great. Kyla Pratt was so good. Who else was on it? Maria Canals, who also played Hawk Girl. She and I got to work on that together. It made a lot of great. Tommy Davidson was the dad. Yeah, no, that was really talented producers. Really talented producers. Yes. So the second question. So it's got to be good.
How was it like working with David Hayter?
That was the exact same beginning of your last one with David Hayter. So, because if you ask two questions, you gotta mix it up. It can't always be how was it like. But David Hayter was great. The first time I worked with him was on Metal Gear 2, and he had just come back. Like the X-Men movie had not come out yet. And the first time I met him, he was telling me the story of going on the Vancouver set of X-Men as a PA and leaving as a co-screenwriter. And so it was really amazing to watch somebody like blow up as a voice actor and as a movie writer at the exact same time. And yeah, Dave is a really, really funny and talented guy. Yes?
What did you think of all the rhymes and the lyrics, limericks that you had to do for Hermes and Futurama?
What was it? Sweet manatee of Galilee! Great lion of Zion! No, I love that stuff, because right about the time they started doing those is when the character locked in. Because at the beginning, they really didn't know what to do with that character, which, you know, on a series means that that character could go away, which would have been really, really devastating. In fact, I always think about, whenever I look at the length of Futurama, I always think about my buddy Charlie Schlatter, because he was originally cast as Fry. But then the network had all sorts of notes, and you know, basically they were just trying to, because they couldn't give notes on The Simpsons, so this was their first chance to be able to give notes to Matt Groening. So they like noted him to death, and they had to stop production for 2 weeks to recast. And one of the recasting was they replaced Nicole Sullivan with Katie Sagal. But they also rewrote the character of Leela. Like, Leela was a little more girly at first, and Amy was sort of like, you know, the mechanic. And then they flipped those characters. But they didn't really rewrite Fry. And, you know, so Charlie just got aced out for no real reason, just to make the network happy. And when I think about that. Although Charlie is the voice of Kick Butowski, and many other, and the I think he's the honeybee on Honey Nut Cheerios. So like, he ain't hurting for work. But still, you hate to see that happen. What's that? What about Charlie? What? Sentences! English, Mama, do you speak it? You need to raise your hand. You are out of line. Yes, the back. Trooper, stormtrooper. You'll be next.
I was wondering if we could hear John Stewart take the oath.
Oh gosh, do I even remember?
A brightest day, a blackest night.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my powers, Green Lantern's light.
What's really interesting about that is that I only did the oath once in the entire series. And I remember talking to Dwayne and Stan, the other writers, about it, and if you think about it, dramatically speaking, in terms of a story that's actually moving, you don't want to see somebody charging their phone. And that's basically what it is. It's like, in brightest, I mean, like, if you had to watch that for the 2 minutes, I mean, the one time they used it, they found a way to work it in to a dramatic storyline. And in fact, it was the action climax of the story. Like, he was saving Oa by doing the oath. That's really the only time you need to hear somebody recite something like that, you know? In a comic book, you can just do it in a panel. But in an actual animated show, it's got, if we do the oath, he's got to do it for like 2 minutes. So no, those guys were absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Fan cast your characters who have comics, who would you fan cast?
Wait, if I were to cast the characters that I've done that have comic books,
Yeah.
cast someone to do their voice?
No. In a live action movie.
Oh! Dennis Haysbert is John Stewart. And part of that is because when I went into audition for Justice League, Dennis, do you guys know who Dennis Haysbert is?
Yeah.
He's the president on 24, he's the spokesman for...
Well, you're talking to Allstate. Go ahead.
Dennis auditioned for John Stewart right ahead of me. And so he's comes walking out, and Dennis is John Stewart. He's like 6'3", he's built like a wall.
And he has that voice naturally.
He walked by, I'm like, that's the guy. So when I went to audition, all I did was like, well, I'm just gonna do my Dennis Haysbert. Because that's the guy. I mean,
John Stewart should look and sound like Dennis Haysbert.
And then I got him. He went. So I think he should at least get the at least. Yeah, that's the only one I've thought about.
Any mind for a live action Samurai Jack?
You know, honestly, I don't believe there should ever be a live action. You know, when we did the first season of the show, there was actually a development deal in place to make a live-action Samurai Jack movie, and Brett Ratner, the Rush Hour, was going to direct it. I mean, my thing is, the show is so cinematic. It takes so many things from, you know, old samurai movies and, you know, Hong Kong action, that if you were to then make a live act, it would be a weird, like, clone of a clone. You would get a bizarro Samurai Jack. Because you would have some guy, like, trying to do some weird thing to try to make his hair stand up, you know, and he would be pretending to be, but, you know, then they cast a white guy who wasn't really Japanese, and, you know. What's the point? What's the point? You know, I mean, I don't know. I thought Last Airbender was an interesting attempt.
Oh, you're talking about the movie. Oh, movie.
Well, you know, I mean, certainly in terms of the racial casting, there was like some forward thinking there, but like, you missed the target.
Yes, you did.
You know, I mean, I would rather read a novelization than watch a movie of something that's. Yeah, there are certain things that are so cinematic and so powerful already as moving images that to do them again in another moving image form is just moving backwards. You know.
I respect that.
Who has not asked the question? Yes, you have. Favorite memories from Mad TV? Yes.
That's great. I got one if you can't think about one.
But I have one that's not on tape.
Can we see it?
Can we see it? One of my favorite memories of MTV, actually it's worst and favorite all in one. In the between the first and second season, I think it was, we had a promotion with Miller Lite beer. And Miller Lite had this promotion where they had, you know, call this 1-800 number to win a weekend on a riverboat with the cast of Mad TV. Now, this is the second season. No one's watching the show. Like, there's a handful of people, but like, in terms of like, broad appeal, we weren't there. And it's a 1-800 number contest. You don't have to fill out a card and get a stamp. There's no effort required. You just have to, you don't even have to have a phone. Because at the time, you could call 1-800 from a payphone. So it was like people who didn't really care about the show, but liked Miller Lite and wanted to win something, that entered this contest. And they flew the cast to New Orleans in August to spend 8 hours stuck. Like the riverboat left. We were on the river with a bunch of people who didn't really know who we were, but were just happy to get out of wherever they were, which arguably was worse than New Orleans in August. And nothing to drink except Miller Lite. But I have to say, we, as a cast, had the most hilarious time because it was hot. And there was they gave us one stateroom with air conditioning. So the 8 of us just crammed into this stateroom together. And we're like, all right, who's going to go outside and talk to the fans? And it wasn't fake. It was real. It was like, hey, you on the show? Are you on the show? Yeah. Huh. Alright. Well, I guess I should get a picture with you. Like, for no reason. But, free trip to New Orleans. Really, how bad could it have been? That's actually as bad as a free trip to New Orleans could be.
Nice. What is this alien technology? I wish I could record
that's actually a really good question.
Here's a trophy for you.
It depends on the actor. It depends on how comfortable you are, how close the two voices are to each other. Like there was an episode of Static Shock where Green Lantern guested. And those I recorded I think I recorded them on a run.
You know, Static, you're going to be quite something when you get to be a member of the League.
wait, did you say when I joined the league? You know, because the characters are far enough apart that I didn't have to worry about them sounding, although I think maybe there might have been a couple lines we went back and did a take as static to make sure that the voice was pitched up high enough, you know. I didn't find myself slipping down to, you know. But when there was an episode of Justice League where there was a static at age 50.
Oh yeah.
Because they went into the future. That time I had to record the two lines of dialogue separately, just because the voices, I wasn't comfortable that the voices wouldn't bleed into each other.
You know, because the John Stewart voice was, you know, John Stewart, you know, deep, you know, the big chest voice.
And actually, part of the reason that voice sounds like that is the way Bruce Timm draws.
Right.
Like, he draws people with these little tiny legs and these immense torsos. To me, like, if you've got a torso that big,
you're gonna have a big resonating table for you. You've got it, Tom.
And it's funny, because there would be episodes where it was me and Kevin Conroy and Carl Lumley, and then one time there was Clancy Brown and I think William Smith, like,
all these guys doing all these voices, everybody sounded like this, or like this, everybody, everyone had a voice.
Like, it was all just like a really testosterone heavy sound going on. But the voice I did for older Static had to be something else.
You couldn't just be, hi, I'm Static and I'm older.
You know, I had to find a way to make this guy 40 years old. So I started back at the original voice and figured, well, you know, not everybody's voice gets deeper as they get older. Some people have higher voices, and as they get older, the voice simply becomes the voice of an older person, but not necessarily a deep voice. You know, and then, you know, you get to be an adult, but then of course as you grow older, your voice changes and you get a little more texture to your voice. And then, you know, that's how I figured this guy would sound 40 years later. But it was the first time I was doing it, so I wanted to make sure that this voice didn't bleed into this voice.
What voice acting did you do for the show Chowder?
For what?
Chowder.
For Chowder.
Was it Shishel?
Oh, God. I'm not sure. I did, God, what was my character? Was I a rat or something? Honestly, I'm so sorry, I don't remember. I remember the episode. It was like one of those hands on a truck type of shows. But I don't remember. Nothing but repeats. Okay, must be time to go. Yes.
What was like your favorite moment in Static Shock? What was like the third moment in Static Shock?
You think you'll get a third question? What, you own the room? It's like, well, I'm a Mason, so I have some extra questions. My favorite moment on Static Shock was beginning of the second or third season when we did the Static Goes to Africa episode.
Second season.
It was beginning of second, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just because, you know, whenever I think about it, I can only think Shaft in Africa. But it was great because we had Michael Jai White on there as Sybil. We had a great cast, and you know, we got. I mean, because the show was not specifically speaking ever about his race, and here was an episode where it was again not about his race, but we did manage to give a nod to Virgil's heritage. And I thought it was great the way they tapped into African mythology to create African superheroes. And I just thought, as a kid, you know, if I was 10 or 12 watching this show, as a young black kid watching the cartoon, I would have thought that was so, so cool. So yeah, that was yes.
Hi, Dominica. I wanted to know. Shut up. These are my friends. I get to say that. But how did you feel when Batman foreshadows that Static Shock will probably meet the Teen Titans. Yeah, you probably don't remember that episode.
Wait,
It's
wait,
okay.
wait. Which episode was this?
The episode where Superman X-rayed Static Shock broke his rib.
I remember.
Of course.
Thank you for that.
We're talking to you.
The episode of Sac Shock? Or was it a Justice League?
Yeah. He mentioned the Teen Titans as well. He asked where Robin was, and he said that Robin was with the Teen Titans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So how did you feel knowing that that would be foreshadowed that was possible?
It was the most important moment of my life. As you can see, by how well I recollect it. No, I'm a comic book head from way back. So, yeah, all of that. I mean, by that point, I wasn't surprised, because they were doing such amazing stuff with all those characters. That was probably more a foreshadowing of Unlimited than anything else.
Right.
You know, because when in the very beginning of Justice League, they were having trouble balancing 7 characters.
Right.
Like just figuring out how do you write for 7 people, you know, and flesh them out. And also the fact that if they're getting together, if 7 heroes at this power level have to get together, it means something incredibly important is happening. You can't just like, well, I mean, because in the comic books they would do that in the 70s and stuff, like, all right, everybody, it's time for a Justice League meeting. Like, really? Okay. They have, like, you have, 7, 9 of the most powerful beings on the planet. They're just gonna spend an hour, like, hashing through, like, Robert's Rules of Order. Like, no. And the guys who did Justice League were amazing about that. They took the stuff that worked from the comics and from the continuity, and then just got rid of all the rest. Like, yeah, no, there's no like meetings. They don't get together monthly like the Shriners. They get together when the world is in peril. Because that's really, I mean, with Superman alone. Like, if Superman ever needs help, we're all in huge trouble. And if Superman and Martian Manhunter can't just like handle it, in 30 minutes, we're in really, really bad straits. So, and that's what they played with. But after a while, they figured out how to balance, the give and take between the 7 characters. And then they started getting greedy. Like, well, what do we do more than 7? Yeah, how about 30? And then they just started using everybody. And it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yes.
All the DC people, it was great to see all of these characters and these, especially like I got to do Stripesy, like, I haven't seen him since like those 100-page,
Annuals?
Annual things when I was a kid. But yes, just JSA and JLA meet. Yes, I think we have time for maybe one more question. Hey, look at, come on, guys, you've been here for an hour. I'm not going to pick anybody who's already asked a question. You know this.
I think you should pick Static Shock.
Static!
Hey, so I was going to ask you, as far as Static, what do you think of him as a hero? Like, do you like him as a whole, like his powers and how well-rounded they made him?
Well, it's interesting because at first I was just really excited to for this character, to have a new life, after Milestone folded. But then, seeing what Dwayne and those guys did with the character, I'm incredibly impressed. I mean, the fact that, in the future, like, well, he's the greatest hero of our time.
Outlast Batman.
Which also makes sense, like, because if you have electrical powers, there's, you're almost an elemental. There's really no limit to what you could conceivably do. And at 14, he was already like figuring out ways, like, well, I can ionize this and make it float. I mean, come on. By the time he was 50, he would be like the guy. That guy. So yes, I have a very special place for that character.
I do.
I hope so. Thank you for your good work. You're wearing that whole outfit. That was like, I don't know. It was one of 3. It's either going to be him or
Black Goliath.
No, No, I know. See, and it would be so much easier to do the first version of the costume.
Yeah.
It was a lot less cool. We're at time. All right. Thank you guys so much. Can I know somebody a monkey dance? Did I owe somebody a monkey dance? You got a request, right? What was it?
Once a Green Lantern, always a Green Lantern.
Anybody who hasn't played Injustice, there's a John Stewart Green Lantern skin.
Yeah!
But yes, thank you guys so much. We'll be signing right now, right? Oh, back at the table. You can make some.
Check out bkbn.net. Jason David Frank, Tommy the Green Ranger.